Hey guys, this is Andrew with High Level Reviews, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Dot Hack Infection, which was released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2 and was actually met with some mixed reviews. Infection was the first part in a 4-part series by Bandai Games. Each game was accompanied by a short anime episode that helped to further develop the world. The events in the game are set after the anime series Dot Hack Sign. Though the anime and the video game both focuses on different characters, it's the intriguing game-within-a-game story and fast-paced but challenging combat that has helped make the Dot Hack series so popular among gamers. It deviates from the other stories so much that the very nature of the story will end up capturing your imagination and have you admiring the unique environments in the Dot Hack series. Infection opens up with Kite, an in-game character, meeting up with his real-life bud's character Orca to play the MMO called The World. Bear with me here. The pair stumbles into a dungeon and Orca is attacked by a monster in a mysterious fashion unbeknownst to even Orca, who's a much higher level than Kite. And this crashes the server of the game and causes Orca's player, Yasuhiko, to fall into a coma. Kite is then determined to get to the cause of the attack and runs into a character named Black Rose. She takes him to a cathedral where they attacked, and Kite is introduced to a few legendary characters and hackers and learns how to data drain enemies to correct their code. Black Rose and Kite decide to help the other victims that have fallen into comas, and with a slew of other very diverse and fairly well-written characters, eventually discover Skeeth, a monster responsible for the issues in the game. And by the game I'm referring to the MMO, not the game I'm playing. Frustrated yet? It's a very clever way to tell a story in an RPG and adds some much needed life and originality to what was, in 2002, starting to get a little too stale and formulaic. If it weren't for the obvious giveaways of not being an MMO, the game does a great job of emulating an MMO environment. Players running frantically from one store to another, even annoyingly blocking your view as you attempt to talk to a shopkeeper. Though, thanks to the lock-on feature, it isn't actually an annoyance, just a funny and I'd imagine intentional nod to MMO etiquette, or lack thereof. Plenty of emoticons, and plenty of players that want to trade. In fact, you acquire some of the better items by trading. You even communicate with players via email, and end up having some long and sometimes touching correspondences, though some of these can get trite and uninteresting in a hurry. I also found the forum system to be a wonderfully imaginative way to advance storylines and continue to build the world around you. Some of the vitriol spewed in these forums are eerily reminiscent of real forums, and many of the questions and quirky ways of speaking or nagging questions about very obvious things in the MMO world really help to sell that you are, in fact, in an actual MMO with actual players. Though there are only 2 main root towns, which are major cities, with 2 towns, which again are just servers in the game, and little to do other than shop and raise and feed grunties, which are pets that eventually give you items and provide a laugh here and there due to their hilarious voices, it doesn't feel as though that ever dampens the experience due to the way you discover dungeons. You're given 3 categories to select keywords, and each keyword sets certain parameters on aspects of the area, from monster types to element types to landscapes. Since combat is largely based on opposing elements, this is a system that gives you a lot of power to determine which element you face and allows you to plan accordingly with equipment and items. Some areas, however, are protected and must be hacked by Kite after obtaining enough virus cores required for him to hack it. In order to do this, he must data drain enemies to acquire those cores, and different monsters give different cores. The fighting system is definitely action RPG based and allows you to freely roam around the battlefield, and in fact requires that you master a sometimes clumsy camera to keep vision on the enemies. But that pauses when you access menus, and you'll be doing this a lot. Skills are attached to weapons and armor and must be rotated in and out to maximize the use of different pieces of armor and weapons in combat. Usually, different items and weapons have different elements attached to them, and you must counter the element you're facing in order to maximize your damage. You only control Kite, but there are broad commands that can be given to your entire team on the fly, or you can manually select abilities to further manipulate which abilities your teammates use. This is often mandatory as the game progresses, and the importance of hitting a monster with the right element is stressed because of the increasing difficulty and multitude of status effects that monsters can hit you with. Once you've removed enough HP from an enemy, you're allowed to data drain it, and this is the coolest looking ability in the game, though seeing it 60 plus times can get a little old. Data draining tough enemies often get you awesome items, and, as mentioned earlier, is a must to unlock certain areas. You have to be a little careful though, because data draining too much infects Kite and can lead to a game over if you don't kill enough enemies in between data draining. Though I've read that some reviewers criticize the combat for not being challenging enough and being a poorly executed hack and slash game, I think this is only indicative of a lack of time spent with the game. After the first few introductory hours, you simply cannot hack and slash, period. There's no way to beat even simple mobs by utilizing that method. You must micromanage certain skills and commands and item usages, and while it's fair to say you might spend too much time in menus once you face harder monsters, it's definitely challenging and significantly more engaging than traditional action RPGs. Data bugs feel like massive raid bosses relative to the RPG experience. They take much longer to kill and require a lot of micromanagement to survive the encounters. I'd love to see a player attempt to just mash X on these things. It's an addictive and fast-paced combat system that I thoroughly enjoyed. It takes a few hours to come together, but once you have a party of 3 that you have geared up, it's a blast. And though I was initially skeptical, after the first few hours I had a hard time putting the controller down. It's a very rewarding experience to bounce from dungeon to dungeon, clearing it, getting the items at the end, seeing the different enemies, data draining them. It's an excellent experience. While the backgrounds can look rough in most areas and the dungeon layouts get a bit monotonous, the character models all look stellar and the various NPCs roaming around the root towns all look impressive and individualized. In fact, some of the NPCs are more detailed than some of the main characters. There's also some surprising detail in areas one might not have expected. In dungeons with data bugs and issues with the coding, the walls of these dungeons have exposed code tearing through. Those minor nods help to create an eerie and often mysterious atmosphere. Musically, the game was a bit inconsistent. There were times that it wonderfully complemented the environment and augmented the mystery and general feel of an area, and then there were areas where the music clashed and contradicted the atmosphere and tone. When the music was on point, it was excellent. It just didn't happen often enough. It feels a little unfair to critique the story of the first part of the 4-part series, but I just wish they'd given us a little more to sink our teeth into in the first entry. The game establishes a wonderful universe, overflowing with character and intrigue, but could have given us a few more major events. I know this series is intended to be played in full, but each entry is only 15 to 20 hours, and each game at the time was still $50. 20 hours of content in a single game just didn't compare with other RPGs at the same price tag, offering 3 to 4 times the content. Despite that, I highly recommend playing this game, if not for the addictive combat and inventive systems, for the originality of the story alone. It's not easy to create a universe that doesn't feel tired and uninspired, especially in the RPG genre where many settings and tropes have been thoroughly explored. But .hack certainly accomplishes this. Definitely give this RPG classic a shot. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. This has been Andrew with High Level Reviews, and I appreciate you guys stopping by.